was chilling, an uncharted sector long dismissed in historical maps. And within that sector, ancient archives spoke of one word, one symbol repeated across countless ages: human. The fleet commander of the Seventh Dominion dismissed it at once. The myths again. Perhaps we should send our youngest officers. It will be good practice for them to learn that stories are not real. A task force was dispatched. Scouts swept the void. For days silence, for weeks only emptiness. And then a shadow. Something moved across their sensors, too large, too deliberate, too impossibly old. It was a vessel, vast and silent, coasting with no signature save for its outline against the starlight. It bore no Dominion insignia, no known species markings. Only one name, carved into the hull in an ancient tongue the archives whispered of but never confirmed: UNSC Dauntless. The reveal of reality. The first scout to transmit the hull markings did so in jest. He expected his command channel to mock him, to dismiss it as a trick of reflection. But the channel went silent. Admirals stared. Scholars argued. The ship's structure was unmistakable, designs eerily similar to schematics once buried in forgotten archives, blueprints attributed to myths. And then the signal came alive. Not random pulses this time, but a voice. A voice carried through static, through centuries, wrapped in words no alien should have understood but did, because history itself seemed to bend toward comprehension. This is humanity. We were denied, we were erased, but we are not gone. Across the Dominion fleet, silence reigned. The scholars who had mocked the idea of humanity felt their scales crawl. The admirals who once sneered at myths leaned forward in disbelief. The legends were real. The clash of denial and fear. The Dominion's answer was predictable. They surrounded the vessel, weapons primed, demanding surrender. They could not, would not, accept the rebirth of a species they had written off as story. Yet the ship did not flinch. With a single ignition, its ancient engines came alive, not crude or fragile as the Dominion had mocked, but terrifying in their precision, radiating power unseen in millennia. The Dauntless moved like a predator among cattle. Dominion cruisers fired beams and plasma. Shields that should have shattered under such force remained intact. Weapons that should have obliterated the vessel were bent aside like whispers against a mountain. The fleet commander's voice shook with disbelief. How does a myth withstand the fire of an empire? And then humanity answered, not with words but with action. The Dauntless returned fire once, just once. A single volley carved through the void, slicing a Dominion dreadnought in half as though it were parchment. The wreckage burned in silence, its fragments scattering like embers across the stars. The Dominion knew fear. For the first time in millennia, they knew fear. Humanity's voice in the stars. The Dauntless did not linger as a single ship. It was not an isolated relic. For in the wake of its fire, space itself rippled. One by one, shadows emerged from the void, ships of different classes, different eras, unified under a banner thought extinct. Carriers, destroyers, frigates, each bearing the same insignia, a blue sphere encircled by a laurel. The fleet of humanity revealed itself in silence, and then a single transmission spread across every Dominion channel, every frequency, every ship. You denied us, you mocked us, you erased us. We return not as myths, but as reality. Remember this moment, for the galaxy will write it in fire. The word spread like wildfire. On worlds light years away, whispers began. In academies, students who had laughed at the name human now sat in silence, trembling. In war councils, generals stared at each other with dawning horror. The myths had not died, They had waited. The aftermath of awakening. When the Dominion fleet limped back, broken and scattered, they carried with them a truth they could not deny. The galaxy shifted in that instant. Every empire, every council, every race that had ever dismissed humanity now whispered their name in awe or terror. The myth had teeth. The story had cannons. The forgotten species had returned, not as relics but as predators who had outlasted extinction itself. The Dominion tried to control the narrative, but the whispers grew louder than their decrees. One phrase spread from world to world, etched into the memory of all who heard it. The humans are real. And in the endless dark of space, humanity advanced, their silence more terrifying than any declaration. They had been denied. They had been erased, but they had returned, and the galaxy would never again laugh at myths. For myths had become reality, and reality was unstoppable. The Galactic Council sat in its ornate chamber, a place where the universe's brightest minds convened. Here, across the expanse of the galaxy, civilizations had met, traded, and battled for supremacy. But one name, one legend, hung like a shadow in every archive and every discussion: humanity. Their existence was but a whisper. The myths had been passed down for centuries, from one generation to the next, carried like a story told around a dying fire. "I told you," a high-ranking officer scoffed, leaning back in his chair. "Humans, a myth, nothing more than a relic of ancient fiction." The room was filled with the echoes of agreement, the sounds of the council's leaders, most of them from species older than the stars themselves, laughing at the thought of humanity being anything but a fantasy. A scientist whose race had once been a vanguard in the exploration of space cleared their throat. The old archives still mention them, though, a species that supposedly existed centuries ago, if they ever even existed. Another officer raised an eyebrow. "What do we care about old myths? It's clear from every sector we've explored, every signal we've received, that humans are simply not there. It's time to let go of these stories. There is no Earth. There is no human race, just the remnants of ancient legends." The other members chuckled. "Remember when we all laughed about the human myth, when the first Starship crew returned from the edges of the known galaxy and spoke of finding only echoes in the empty void? Every species with an archive could name 100 reasons why humanity must be nothing but an old tale. This is just another." A voice cut through the conversation. "What about the signals we've been picking up?" The room fell into sudden silence. "Ghost signals," came the skeptical response. "Faint, broken fragments of an old transmission, nothing more than background noise." Still, another voice interjected. "They seem to be coming from the area where Earth was supposed to be located before it, vanished from our records." The room grew tense. For the first time, doubt spread like a virus. "Investigate them," said the leader. "But this is nothing more than an ancient myth, remember that." And so it was settled. But in the depths of space, something stirred, something ancient and powerful, and humanity was not a myth. The signal that shouldn't be. The unknown signal, its origin unclear, its frequency disturbingly familiar, began as little more than a ripple in the galactic network. At first, it was easily dismissed. Just another anomaly. Just another dead signal echoing from forgotten corners of the cosmos. Yet something about it gnawed at the collective mind of the council. "Check the archives," said one of the technicians in a quieter voice, his eyes not leaving the glowing screens in front of him. It's not like the other ghost signals we've encountered." An officer stepped closer to examine the signal. It was faint, but there was something rhythmic about it, something purposeful. "It's older," he said, "very old." The others turned to him in disbelief. "Impossible," one murmured. "Humans were nothing more than stories. What could they leave behind?"